Alright, so today I'm going to be showing you guys how to tie-dye using acrylic paint. I really like to do this because I always have acrylic paint at my house because I paint all the time. So I can tie-dye whenever I want. I also enjoy it because it's a lot easier to find different colors in paint, like readily accessible, than it is to find colors for like dyeing. This is the kind of paint I use. Again, it's just regular acrylic paint. I actually get these at Hobby Lobby, but I'm sure you can find, you can find acrylic paint anywhere. The next thing we're going to need is a bottle to do your mixing in. Of course, you can always just use like an empty, cleaned out condiments bottle, but I like to use this, and I actually got this at either Walmart or Target. It's really cheap, and I like it because, you know, it's got the lid, but then it also has a little cap, which makes it really easy for shaking up. And then the last thing for mixing the dye, we're going to need water, which of course I normally do this at my sink, but I didn't want to be moving the camera around, so I just filled up a pitcher with water, and we're going to get into it. You can use as many colors as you like. Today I'm just going to be using 4. So first we're going to take our lid off. Set that right there. I always like to make sure I shake my paint up before I start. And see, I've got my paint open, and I'm just going to put it in here. Don't need it too much. If you use too much and it's not thin enough, you run the risk of the dye being too thick and it not really working well. So I'm just gonna spin this around, try to coat the bottom. And as you can see, there's really not a lot of paint in here at all. Alright, so that's about just how full I'm going to do it. Of course, also keep in mind, you know, how much are you about to be dyeing. Let's see. And then we just shake it up really good.
Also keep in mind, this is acrylic paint, so if it gets in your clothes, it will stain them. That's how it's able to dye for the tie-dye.
Okay, see, and of course there's still some paint down here at the bottom, but you can look and see that it's decently mixed up, so I'm just going to put that to the side. And then I do that with the rest of my colors. And I forgot to mention this at the beginning, but you're going to want to have some kind of surface so that you don't make a huge mess in your house. Alright, the next thing you're going to need is just a plain white t-shirt, and we are going to get it wet. Right now you can see it's dry. We don't want to do it dry. So I'm just going to take this to my sink and get it wet real fast, and I'll be right back. Alright, I am back with my t-shirt. It's damp. It's a little more than damp, but you get what I'm saying. Make sure you try to squeeze this out just as much as possible while you're, at your water source, whether that be inside or outside, because you don't want it to be soaked. You just want it to be, a little wet so it soaks that color through easier. And of course, which I forgot to mention, but another thing we will definitely be needing for this project is rubber bands. So the first thing you're going to do is figure out where in this shirt you want the center of your spiral to be. Now I am just going to be really simple here, and I'm going to just pick right here in the center. Right in the center. Take my index finger and my thumb, pick up both sides of the shirt, not just the top, but both sides. and twist. Again, you can twist whichever way you want, clockwise or counterclockwise. I'm doing clockwise. So see, I did that first twist. Now I'm picking my hands and just twisting again, okay? We want to get this as tight as possible and keep putting those same fingers in the little finger holes where they were before. And just keep twisting. And then when we get to this point, you're mostly going to have to hold this with your other hand and kind of just twist it around yourself. Eventually you'll get to a point where you can't just twist it from the middle anymore. Now that we have this, it's time for the rubber bands. Now your rubber bands are going to dictate how many sections of color we have. I always do mine differently, so we'll just see what this one ends up with. So you just take it and just right down the center. And another thing that I feel like a lot of people forget to do is make sure that it's also in the center on the bottom, because if not, when you flip it over to dye that, it won't be the way it's supposed to be. Take another one. So see, right now we have 4 sections, but I like to do more than that. And then make sure you're keeping the outside of the shirt tucked and lined up where it should be. That way it gets sectioned off properly. I think I'm going to do one more. I like to do a lot of rubber bands because I like to add a lot of color in my tie-dye shirts. See, like that. And then before I start dyeing, I like to go ahead and flip it over and line up the back as well. And there we go. So see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections. And each one of these sections is going to be a different color. So this is now where you get to pick up these colors that we mixed. And always when I pick up the bottle again, I like to just give it a little shake because it will settle. Keep that in mind. And let's put our color down. We can see we are done. So now I just, again, it's very, very saturated. So I just move it to a dry spot that I know I won't have to mess with it. Now, you have to let it sit like this. The difference between this and normal dye that you would use for tie-dye is that this, while it's wet, will actually still wash out. So don't do anything with it while it's wet. Leave it like this until it dries, which can, you know, it could go fast or it could take a while. One thing I like to do is if the weather's nice outside, I'll set it outside because that does help dry it faster. Another thing is once I feel that the outside, which of course now it's soaked, but one thing I like to do when this starts to get drier is I'll actually cut the rubber bands off and I'll just unroll it carefully and lay it out flat, and of course it will dry faster flat. That's how you tie-dye using acrylic paint.